I did 100 million last year. I don't care. How much you keep? I've had guys doing 10 million a year and they're not even taking home 100 grand. I'm like, this is broken. How can this be? The opportunity fairy is going to come and be flying around your head. Oh, you should do this. You can make money with this. And say, okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. Let me run it through my exit strategy. If it gets me closer to it, I'm all in. If it detracts from it, it's a hard no. Figure it out, lose some money, make some dumb decisions, fall down a few times, get punched in the face, get those scars, and then when I tell you how much I charge, you'll go, oh, totally worth it. Here's the number one problem. You have to pay attention to your money.
Welcome, everybody, to the show. We are back. My name is Vince Perri. I'm your business broker, entrepreneur, public adjuster, and everything under the sun when it comes to business. This is Beyond the Claim. And I am very excited today because we have who is now becoming a friend because I was on his show. Now he's on my show. And I will say it was an extremely pleasant conversation that we had on his show. And we have a ton in common. So I'm pretty excited. We've got Richard Walsh. Richard Walsh owns Sharpen the Spear Coaching, and he's a CEO, author, and a business coach. And we're going to get into like really, really good stuff when it comes to really what entrepreneurs need to do to ultimately not only be successful, but also gain control of their life. So Richard, I'd like to welcome you to the show. Thank you for coming on, man.
Thanks, Vince, man. I've been waiting all these days. Yeah.
Richard, before we get into the real good stuff, could you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So background, about 35 years as an entrepreneur now. Came out of the Marine Corps, started working, ended up starting a landscape company that became a water feature, custom water feature business, and really niched into that, added steel sculpture to that, became a world-class operator, if you will, right? So best in the business, world-class steel sculpture, recognized around the world, that kind of stuff, really cool. That grew for about 20 years. 08, 09 hit, lost everything. So I was really good at making money and being out front and being published and getting awards and doing all that cool stuff. Not so great at the business part because I just kept making money. So I thought that was business, but it's not. Newsflash. It's not. So I lost everything at the time. I was married with 6 kids, 4 years and younger. So again, business, lost the home, lost the business, had to start over. So we relocated and I started over. So Highview, ended up doing 2 more businesses, scaling those, ended up writing a book because a lot of people are asking me like, well, how'd you do that? So I started mentoring some other business owners, started seeing the same patterns. So I wrote a book called Escape the Owner Prison, that contractors' new way to scale, regain control, and fast track growth while loving life. Wove my story into it, all these fundamentals, really cool. That took off, built an academy around that, began coaching businesses because I like to say mentoring is great, but that's for free. Coaching, you get paid. So I am an entrepreneur, so I'm going to start a coaching business because when you pay attention, right? Mm-hmm. So that way people are really doing what we do and brought us up to where we're at today, a few iterations in the coaching business, but we're at Sharpen the Spear now. And that's kind of a quick nutshell there.
Yeah. When you pay, people pay attention. That's so true. Because when you pay for a coaching program and you drop several thousands of dollars, you're going to go out of your way to make sure you do it. And I always say it's not always the coach's fault, man. Like a lot of times it's the student that's just not putting in the time to actually implement all the things. And then they just end up blaming the coach. And when you actually charge money, it sort of puts the onus on the student to be like, okay, well, I've invested this much money. I need to do it. As opposed to if you just offered it for free, which let's face it, I know you and me are probably similar in the fact that if we can do it for free, we would totally do it for free. Yep. But it's not just about us generating revenue in our business. It's about putting the pressure on them, putting the responsibility on the student to cough up the money so that they feel more responsible to actually complete the stuff that you're actually telling them to do.
Yeah, and it gives us the ability to fire the student. Okay, when they're not producing, and we get those, right? They're not all, it's seldom, but you get those people who are just not doing the work, or they think I'm an employee, which I'm not. I'm not an employee. All right. So we need you to do the work. We're here as a guide, yeah. Right? And give you the tools. So, and sometimes you just got to cut people loose, which is difficult for a lot of coaches, to do that. But I have found, again, the rare times I've had to do it has been very, very good for both of us, for the client I got rid of and really good for me, because again, our name's at risk as well, right? I want results. If people aren't going to do the work, I mean, people, we all have played sports, don't do the work. Guess who's not going to play? The guy who's not working. Right. So we kind of take that attitude.
Do you coach people that don't ask or that don't pay?
No.
Yeah. I find that as a common trend in books that I read and in my normal everyday of life is I really make sure that I avoid when people are giving me their issues or their problems, and forget that they don't pay, but if they don't ask, I don't give. And I may ask them, "Do you want my advice or do you want me to just sit here and listen?" Like, I can totally do that too. And then normally that conversation goes a lot better as opposed to, "Well, you know what you should do, and you should do this, and you should do that," because it falls flat and we don't actually make the impact that we want to make.
You know what I've done, Vince, is I hand them my book. That's what I give them for free.
Nice.
Here, read this. Okay. And then if you take action on that, again, it's like when I tell people it's hard to work with startups because, well, they're broke. Totally okay. Right. They have no money. They have no experience. They have no what I call scars. Okay. And I tell them straight up, listen, you need to go and start making this happen, figure it out, lose some money, make some dumb decisions. Okay. Fall down a few times, get punched in the face, get those scars. And then when I tell you how much I charge, you'll go, oh, totally worth it. Because when you haven't done it, you don't get it. You can't attach value to it. So it's not even their fault. They just can't, they have no point of reference to attach value to that. Right. So that's a big thing. So there's plenty of people who do startup stuff. I did a whole 16-week free startup business owners playbook, for startups, and they don't do it. They won't pay $50 for that. And literally it'll exponentially increase your chances of success when you're starting a business. But $50, $100, $500, it doesn't matter what it is. They're not going to pay it, so they're not there. You know what I mean? Their mindset's not there. They don't know what it's really going to take to invest in the business, and make it happen.
It takes a heavy amount of self-awareness to really invest in coaching. And unfortunately, again, I told you on your show that one of my biggest regrets is not hiring a business coach when I started and waiting, Jesus, probably 10 to 12 years into doing it. But it's definitely one of my biggest regrets. But what I want to know, tell me about your scars, Richard. Tell me about your business scars. I want to know about rock bottom because I've got quite the rock bottom story as well. I'd really like to know more about that.
Yeah. So like I was kind of saying in the intro a bit, so I start this business, I come out of the Corps. I'm swinging a pickaxe. I'm digging trench for $5 an hour all day in the Tucson heat, Arizona, right? Doing that. Okay. Doing that. Then a guy came offer me a side gig. Hey, can you come do some work in my house? I said, sure. He wanted me to shovel some granite, some crushed granite. He had 35 tons on the street. Okay. He wanted me to shovel that, wheelbarrow it to the backyard and spread it. I'm like, I can do that. I do this all day. I swing a pick. So this camp yard. So I bought a wheelbarrow, last $85 before payday, wheelbarrow and a shovel. Showed up on Saturday, knocked that out, did the whole thing in about 10 hours. And Vince, the best part, he put $1,000 in my hand. Okay. And that's when I'm like, wow, I did this yesterday for $40. It was literally that kind of epiphany or whatever. Like, oh, I think I'm going to work for myself, and that kind of started that whole launch. Okay, good. Well, think about what I started. And this is the reason I'm bringing this up is because as we get to this failure, what did I learn? Well, I can make money doing things that other people don't want to do or can't do. I'm like, okay, well, right then that's business. What? Shovel, $1,000. Shovel, $1,000. This is great. Rinse and repeat. Okay. Then, like I said, started getting other stuff, started making things other people couldn't do. Custom water features, one of a kind, all the steel sculpture. Wow, getting all this fame, being the best, doing all this stuff, and again, rising the ranks. Like I'm in magazines, I'm on TV, I'm winning awards at big shows, I'm doing all this stuff and making great money, and just buying stuff. Well, here's the problem with that. I'm super cash rich, right? So we kind of all know that story. We've seen it with every, new heavyweight boxer, whether they're Mike Tyson or whoever. They get $100 million and they're broke 3 years later. Okay. Like, how do you do that? Well, it's easy. You don't know what you're doing. So we got to that's going along, doing really well. I meet my wife, get married. We have these 6 kids. Hey man, I'm rolling. I'm like, okay, man, this is great. I got 6 kids, I got a wife, got a house. And then I'm pushing. Then 08 comes, things start to really restrict. And then November 5th, 2008, day after the election, my phone started ringing and I lost $500,000 that day. And I'm like, wow, people just canceling contracts, like we're not doing this, we're not doing. No one wanted to spend money. And they weren't wrong. It was a very kind of scary time for people. I mean, everybody, no one needed a pond. Okay. No one needed a sculpture. That is definitely on the high end, luxury item stuff. So I remember the end of the day, I hung up that phone. I looked over my office manager. I'm like, I think it's over. I don't think we're going to recover from I don't even know what we're going to do. There's nothing happening now. So we started limping through 09 and I'm like, I'm doing all this work and just trying to make things happen, doing a few dumb things, right, to keep the business afloat. Let's mortgage the house, let's do this. Lost all that. Okay. It really sucked. About the middle of 09, I'm like, it's going to end. I just know when. So for me, Vince, I woke up one day and I'm thinking about all this, right? So I'm laying in bed for a second. I'm like thinking about my 6 little kids, right? They're 4 and under. And I go, they don't care what I drive, how many trucks I have. They don't care what kind of house we live in. They don't even care what I do, right? They just want me to be around, which I never was because I'm working. I'm trying to keep this thing floating, right? So, and that was the first thing that I'm like, because one time my 4-year-old was chasing me out of the driveway. I was in my truck and he's crying because I'm leaving and I had to just keep going, because, hey, I got business to do, and so it didn't affect me then, but it affected me that moment laying in bed, right? I'm thinking about, I said, you know what? If I stay on this path of businesses first, it's everything. I got to win. It's all about my identity and everything else. I said, my kids are going to grow up. I'm going to ruin their futures. They're going to have broken marriages, failed relationships, right? Everything in their life will be trash. Maybe they'll be good at business, but in reality, they wouldn't. Okay. Because I ended up not being at that time, right? So that came to that point. So I got out of bed. I walked in the office and I said, we're done today. Shut it down. Went to my construction yard with my guys. Had our last cup of coffee. These guys have been with me over 10 years straight. And I said, guys, I can't do this anymore, man. We're done. And they're just like, what? Like, there's just nothing. I'm not going to go down this business had become who I am. Right. So my identity was so wrapped up in the business, I couldn't let go of stuff. And I was making really bad decisions to save my identity. Do you know what I mean? Like, people don't always think of it that way. They think it wasn't just, yeah, you did some wrong things or the economy crashed. Cause I don't really blame the economy. It's really not the economy's fault. I didn't run the business that could weather that. Because if it was the economy's fault, everyone would have been out of business, right? So it's just, so I didn't do that. So that's it. We wrapped it up. Didn't know what I was going to do, where I was going to go, but I had nothing. Lost my home. Okay, got that foreclosed. I have nothing. I started selling all this equipment that I bought for cash because I'm cash rich. Oh, look, a $53,000 skid steer. That's really pretty. I'm going to buy that because to me, I'm doing the right. It's debt free. That's the right move, right? I don't owe anything. Yeah. Just ask whoever, Dave Ramsey or someone. They'll tell you. And I said, and I look at wait a minute. I could have rented that for $5,000 for the whole season, had 50,000 to invest, making money. But no, I didn't do that. I bought that. And that wasn't the only piece of equipment, just saying. I didn't buy myself. I'm buying a lot of stuff. So I don't have any vices, but man, I like equipment, so I thought it was all for the business. Now I'm getting 25, 30 cents on the dollar for that stuff. It's relatively new. So basically liquidated everything. Didn't want to do what I was doing, Vince, ever again. I didn't keep any equipment. I do some side work or whatever. I'm an all or nothing guy, which I don't recommend is a great thing to be. Or at least, keep a truck and an excavator, make some side money so family can eat. So I didn't do that. I'm not that way. So I burned all my uniforms. I did everything. Right. So now we have zero. We have to relocate. We moved from Illinois to Wisconsin, start over. And I'm like, okay, I got next to nothing. I'm like, what am I going to do? Okay. Because I'm never going to do that. Okay. As tempting as that was, because again, it was big money, fast, everything else. I didn't do it. So had to start over, so all I could think of was well, what do I want to do? I got that whole, what would make me happy? Right. So I go, well, I really love training people. I'm a boxer, man. I'm a black belt. I'm all this, a Marine. I'm all this cool stuff. And I'm really good at training people. So I just went and got a personal training job at Anytime Fitness. They didn't even have a program. I go, I'll start it. And I built that. I killed it. Right? I become a trainer of the year at Anytime Fitness, So I'm like, well, what does that mean to an entrepreneur? Let's go open a gym. Okay. So I went and opened a boot camp style training gym. That was awesome. Did that for a bunch of years. Then I started contracting again, got into contracting, roofing, siding, windows, and I built that out. And that's again when the coaching started, the book started writing, and everything else. So the failure part for me was, again, I did lose everything and I kind of abandoned everything. Um, but I got to tell you, Vince, it's weird because people ask, like, was it, well, of course it's stressful, but there was something freeing about that, like that, all that, nothing, like never again. And I don't know how to really explain it well, but I'm never like negative in my mind. My mindset is always like, well, just do another thing. I don't know what it'll be, but if I started that with nothing, with a stinking wheelbarrow and a shovel, like, how bad can it be? I am a little older, but I can still shovel. I can still work outside every day. I can weld, like whatever. But, so that's kind of where that was. If that makes sense.
Tell me about the X's and O's in regards to the business and how it failed. You
Yeah.
said you were cash rich,
Mhm.
which, typically that's a good thing if you're generating cash flow, because that's one of the most important things that you need to do in order to run a successful business. Now, I could assume that you were also spending too much because you were already expecting more and more cash flow to come in. But if you could break it down exactly, what is it
Yep.
that happened that really, really affected the business?
Yeah. So as you're going and you're growing, and I was growing, again, I'm focused on doing great things, building great things, getting awards, right? So I'm doing that. The money's coming in. And to me, here's the number one problem. And I want to give this advice to everyone is starting in 5 year, 10 in business. You have to pay attention to your money. I didn't pay attention to it. Someone handed me $100,000 check. Oh, cool. Put that in the bank. Like, and never, like, and just went on doing things. Literally, like, no plan. I had a real good friend's like, I think you need a bean counter. He's like, you need someone. He's trying to be real nice and say, dude, he basically said, dude, you're not paying attention to your money. You're making money, but it's going out. You're like, you need someone to, and then I had a client who was a billionaire, super successful, right? Always giving me advice, love me, right? One of my biggest clients. And I would not accept help. I listened to nobody, Vince. I mean, this guy owned multiple professional sports teams, manufacturing plants, all this stuff. And he's like, just likes
What
me.
did he,
Like,
what did he try to tell you that you were just like, man, I should have listened to that. Should have listened to that too.
well, he talked to me about a few things, a little bit about
But,
who was,
but it goes back to our original thing that I said, that if you cannot give advice to somebody who is not looking for it, you just
right.
can't. It falls flat. You have to be, they have to want it.
Yeah. So you get, it's ego and it's pride mixed together. Right. And that's what drove me. Again, I was all about the next great thing. So someone could tell me I'm great. I really like that. I really like doing what no one else can do and do another one. And, but he'd be like, he would just say, yeah, he would look at me and he would give me suggestions like, well, what are you doing with the money? Like, but we had short conversations, but he could just see things. I had a guy working for my own retail store. Okay. I opened one in the right place. And that was really cool. I mean, you're talking waterfalls off the roof. Like, people see, it was amazing, right? I did $250,000 my first month open and no one ever came in. It's a drive-by, right? 40,000 people drive by. Oh, I'm going to go do a retail store in a high-end district. I'm going to do this stuff. Yeah. He came in like a week after I opened and I had this guy working for me and he's like, walked in, he sees it and he goes, who's that out there? And they go, oh, that's I even forget the guy's name. Some kid. He goes, he's got to go. Okay, that guy's got to go. Like, you need to get rid of him. And he wouldn't even tell me why. That's just him. Looked around and then he goes, I'm going to tell you something else. Because this is my neighborhood. He goes, people are going to come in here and look at everything you have, and they're going to go and buy it online for $10 cheaper. He told me that right away and I'm like, oh, no, come on, man. I'm like, no, well, I don't think so. I got all this stuff. I lost $100,000 on that store in less than a year. I had to close down, and then it got even worse because then you owe for the stuff, the time it's vacant. Okay. And here's a fun story. Christmas Eve. Okay. Cause they had finally rented the place. They swept all my accounts, took like $60,000 from me. on Christmas Eve, like zeroed out everything and I'm like, what? There's no, what? Because I had some judgment against me because I didn't pay attention to stuff, Vince. Judgment, whatever. I'm just whatever. Right. Everything got pushed to the left of my desk. So this was the problem. I was letting that pile get really high. Okay. Whether it was accounting. Now I had a good accountant, but accountant is like compliance, right? Now I had screwed up my taxes before then because I wasn't paying attention. Ended up being 100,000 in debt in taxes. Paid it. Okay. Did all that. So I'm like, okay, got about $600,000 in debt. So I go to this client, my billionaire client, say, can you help me? And we sat down in his house and he's looking at my stuff. He goes, if this was like 50 or 100,000, I'd just give you a check. He goes, this is 600,000. He goes, you're not going to get over this. I go, well, I can't. He goes, just file bankruptcy. And I go, well, I can't do that. I'm not going to shaft my vendors. I've worked with these guys for all these years. Really, again, ego, right? Really pride. Like I'm not going to, he goes, okay, let's say you can earn that 600,000 and you pay him off. He goes, what will you have then? I go, zero. He goes, yeah, you'll be at zero. If you file bankruptcy now, today, what will you have? I go, zero. But you can earn 600,000 to pay them off. So you'll have $600,000. He goes, you see where I'm going? And I'm like, yeah, but I can't do that to my vendors. That's the level of stupid I operated at. Nothing illegal about it. He said, do it. The grade have had, all the grades have had to do this. And I'm like, no. And guess what? I paid the 600 grand back. I worked, I got this big world-class, but yeah. And then 08 hit. Just one normal year. This, I would have been, but it just, so the whole deck of cards came down, and I'm thinking, I'm just thumping my chest, 600, I paid them all back. I did it,
You kept going back to your identity in the business. How much of an effect was that on the ultimate failure of the business or businesses?
I think it was the entire effect.
Because my question was going to be, what's one or two things that come to mind that you could have done differently? But then I went back to the identity because you mentioned that a couple of times. So let's start there.
Yeah. So when your work is who and what you are, okay, and like without my hat, without my shirt, without the wrap vehicles, I didn't exist. I've done this for 20 years now. I am constantly being patted on the back. I'm winning awards. I'm world class. I'm like that, dude. It's kind of like stardom, right? You get obsessed with that, and all of a sudden you want to keep that at all costs. We've seen it, right? You've seen it with celebrities and everything else. So I had that. So it's like you're not open to listening. The only thing I'm listening to is someone who wants to give me another really cool thing to do. I wasn't taking any advice about them doing things wrong, so I didn't accept that critique, if you will, in a gentle way, right? So that was that, and that was again my identity, my ego, my pride. That's what was driving me all the time going forward. So when the business part, even people in the office, they like me. I'm a good guy. All this stuff, I take care of everybody, but I think they saw it too, but they can't. No one can voice it, right? Because I wasn't receptive. So I think that was my biggest downfall. Because again, a couple advisors, the whole game would have been different. And these were free. They were free. They were giving me the best free advice you could ever get from guys who had been there.
So knowing what you know now, what were a couple of the things that you could have done differently to really, not, go through what you went through and actually have success in that business?
So understanding, again, when I say pay attention to your money, like it's got to be working for you. Okay. You can have money coming in. Like the easiest thing to do in business is make money. It is the easiest thing to do. Okay. Like, especially if you really love what you do, you're going to hustle, you'll go out, you'll work out, you'll make money. The problem is what you do with it. It's called Parkinson's law. If money doesn't have a plan to go here, 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 and here, it's going to evaporate. That's my story. I'm a story of evaporation, Vince. It's just all evaporated. So you have to start putting it somewhere. You have to really, and it sucks because no entrepreneur likes to do this stuff, right? We don't want to do accounting. We don't want to do this stuff. Not maybe I'm general statement here, but in general, yeah, we don't, right? We want to do what we do, be cool, be out, make this, grow the business. But that money, what you could do with that, what I'm telling you, like you could be investing little by little. Hey, 5% of it here, 10% of this goes here, 3% goes here, right? Understand replacement costs and everything. Start really looking at that as a business. Stop being in my case, an artist. Okay. And you know what's even worse about me being an artist? I was never a starving artist. I always got paid. Okay. So I never suffered, even as I just did cool stuff and people paid me money for it. So that's the number one thing. Okay. Because if you're doing that, you then have to pay attention to the rest of the business. Right. It's a great place to start. And it's your economic engine, your business, and the money, those sales are the fuel for the engine. And that needs to be done properly. And most of us, especially the first couple of years, we don't do it properly. We pay ourselves last, pay everybody else but us, right? We're supporting families and, hey, I got to take care of the guys. Well, I'll get it next time. I'll get this, I'll get that, so you don't, and people get stuck in that cycle. They kind of get stuck in that cycle. They're kind of being paid last forever, because they're really driven by the business is working, but it's actually not.
The profit first system that I use for my financials, it talks about paying yourself first.
Yeah.
You have a quote in my notes that says revenue feeds ego, profit feeds your family.
That's it. I love it. I heard that, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, maybe. Someone told me that, a little late. But I still look at like that preaches. Okay, that preaches. I use it all the time.
What does it mean to you?
So revenue feeds the ego. People are looking at their gross revenue.
It's so stupid.
It's the wrong scorecard, everybody.
It's not good scorecard at all.
As I started coaching, Vince,
I love gross profit. I mean, the gross, your net income, your net profit is very important too, obviously, but that gross, like how much does it exactly cost me per job?
Yeah.
It's a big one.
So it's really understanding that, I've had guys doing 10 million a year and they're not even taking home $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is broken. How can this be? I'm like, I try to help them and I give them that saying. I goes, we're driven by this high revenue number. It's like competing. It's just that contest with other dudes or whoever, right? You just look at me, look at my revenue. I did 100 million last year. I don't care how much you keep. Tell me that number. If you're leading with the revenue number, I already know there's problems. All right, because people normally don't brag about their revenue. There's other things they'll talk about in the business. But when they're focused on their revenue, the mindset's a little bit off and you got to correct that. So that's what that means. And the profit feeding the family, again, that's paying you first, paying you a lot. If I had to replace me, what would I have to pay someone? Right? That's the number. And think about and you don't even know all the things you do. I guarantee you. You don't realize how much you do in your business. And without you, there is no business, not for a week, not for 30 days. It's finished. It'll rapidly catch on fire and burn to the ground.
Simple numbers. Yeah. That's what he talks about in the book. I mean, one of the first 2 chapters are pretty much dedicated to if you are not paying yourself the market salary of whatever it is that you are doing, that's where you need to get to first. First and foremost is you need to get to a salary that is worth, based on your overall revenue and based on, everything that you're doing, you need to start paying yourself a salary ASAP. Once you get past that, then you go into all of the next steps. But that's usually the last thing that business owners do is pay themselves a salary, or they like to keep it really, really low so they could keep reinvesting in the company. Like I understand it because I've been there, but at the same time, you're the one that's doing the most work out of anybody else, and you got to get there first. And in the beginning, maybe you're on a credit card and you're just reinvesting and you're reinvesting, but your number one goal first initially is profit and your salary. Profit, your salary. Like get that done first, then start doing everything else.
Yeah, because you have a foundation to build on.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't ever have to change, and what it does is it slows you down in a good way. Because we will run. I call it ignorance on fire. It's just, you're going. You don't even know what you're doing, but I'm out selling, I'm building, I'm making all that money. But if I was focused on paying myself, right, I wouldn't be buying $50,000 kids chairs. Okay, I got to meet my payroll, personal payroll. Okay, so now you start to look at, okay, what can I actually do with money? What can it really do? Once I'm secure, And one quick note, if you got a family, wife, kids, okay, security is the number one human core need. Okay. If you're not paying yourself, I'm almost 100% guarantee you're destroying your family. Okay. They're living in lack. They never have anything. You're doing all these things. You've probably been to conferences hearing about prosperity mindset and poverty consciousness and all that, but you're like that person now. You're that person who's not taking care of your family. And you got to be a provider, the provider protector, that whole thing. If you're not doing that, that's why you got to focus on paying yourself first. Because all you're going to do is have a side eye from your wife. Your kid's disappointed because you're working all the time. Just like I was thinking about. Like I would have just destroyed their futures. And now I can look at them and say, this is amazing. My kids turned out pretty darn good because I was able to be around.
Richard, what's your advice? What the conversation that I've been having a lot with business owners, because I talk to business owners every single day. They're telling me what their issues are, what their problems are. And it seems, especially in the service industry, especially in the contractor world, it seems to be the same issue all of the time. Is they're working. They all started this just like you because they knew that if they just did the thing, it cost them next to nothing except their labor. And then all of a sudden they get $1,000 in their hand and now they're growing something. And they all seem to hit this same ceiling. It's like that, I don't know, call it $1 million or so, maybe it's between 700 to 1.2. It's like that ceiling that they hit where they're just like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not doing anything that I thought I was going to be doing anymore. And now I'm just like stuck in the office with all this paperwork and all of this admin work and all of these things. What's the first thing that comes to mind in regards to like the number one advice that you would give to try to break through that first wall? By the way, there's another one at 2, there's another one at 5, there's another one at 10, so on and so forth. But what's the best advice? Because there's so many. Like literally, I probably last week alone had conversations with probably 7 different business owners, and I'd say 5 out of the 7, we were like having the exact same conversation.
Right.
They're like literally talking to me while they're in their office doing all this paperwork that they shouldn't be doing. Right. So what's your number one piece of advice?
Exit strategy.
Oh, okay. That's not what I was expecting.
Okay. So this is where I screwed up. Everybody screws up. I see all the time. There's 2 times to do an exit strategy. The first time, the best time is before you launch your business. The second best time would be right now. Okay.
Exit strategy, like to sell your business?
Yep, exactly. And here, real simple. I'll make it really simple. How long
is that a plug for me? Is that what that is?
This is gonna be. I'm come on, you blew it. I was gonna.
I appreciate that.
So subtle. I'm trying to set you up, and there you go. You let the cat out of the bag.
Hey man, it's all good. I love it.
Legit. This is what will change those guys' business. Okay. Now, just know you can get to $1 million all by yourself. Again, easiest thing in business is to make money. You can get there, but we're not even getting all the problems from that point. Right. So once you get there, things are going to change. But if you have an exit strategy, and let's say you do it before you start, how long, how much? Well, I like to do this for 10 years and I like to exit. Keep rules from $10 million. Okay, great. Hey, that sounds really nice. Now what do you got to do? You have to reverse engineer those numbers. So what does that look like if I'm on day 1? What do I need to do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, this quarter, in the year? When do I hire my first person? What does that look like? What do I need to be generating? Now, as I go through this and I'm building, okay, so now I kind of have a plan and a few things are going to happen. One thing is like, okay, if I get to 10 million, I'm going to have my plan is to have a 7-figure active business income. I want $1 million a year. Okay, great. If I sell it, what happens to my $1 million a year? Oof, it's gone. So now I got to create passive income up to $83,000 a month to replace that. So if I do get to 10 and I'm going to get my 10 million, I've also got passive income that equals my active business income of $1 million a year. So I literally have 10 million now to do something with. I'm still taking care of on my regular income, right? But the other thing is at that same time, as you start to gain speed and get success, okay, you're going to get a lot of opportunities. The opportunity fairy is going to come and be flying around your head. Oh, you should do this. You can make money with this, and say, okay, yep, that sounds interesting. Let me run it through my exit strategy. If it gets me closer to it, I'm all in. If it detracts from it, it's a hard no, right? Now you're really thinking that filter is going to slow you down. keep you focused on the main thing. Hey, and listen, if you're 8 years in, and you're like, I got 2 years I can exit, but man, I'm having some fun. Man, I'm making some great money. You get to move the goalposts. Okay, that's okay. But at the same time, if you're not, don't have that kind of direction, that understanding, again, this is high view, but like that keeps you laser focused. And every stage you understand the next stage you're going to hit in your business because you mapped this out. Now you can share that with your family. Listen, man, we're going in our first growth phase. This is going to be a little rough. I'm going to be busy. Okay, only going to be a few months till I get everyone, delegate, we get dialed in, then we'll go next level. And I tell people that so that their family, we kind of don't want them in the business, but we want them to be our cheerleaders. We want them to understand what we're up against, what we're doing, so they understand. We don't just come home and say, when they say what's wrong, say, it's business. You wouldn't understand. Not a thing to tell the family.
It's funny. Everybody always talks about how like the place that you were in where you were working so much and you were driving away and your son was crying because you were working so much. And I consider myself an extremely hard worker as well. And it's just, I'm relentless in making sure I do what I have to do. But I also, it's interesting. You also have to allow yourself to have those all in moments and not feel guilty about it, because you can do both. And the reason why I mentioned that is you just mentioned something now that was interesting in regards to, hey, talk to the family. It's time to buckle down. It's time to go all in. I would always feel guilty. I'd feel guilty when I would have those all in moments where I'm like, no, I shouldn't be working because I need to have a balance and I need to, spend time with my family. So I shouldn't go all in. So it's not that I wasn't working hard, but I think sometimes I would actually detract myself from those all-in moments because I felt that, I had to balance the life. Like it is okay. I have learned it's okay. I love your idea with buckle up, couple months, going all in. We got to create these things. We got to do this. But I'm more of the no, like you can go all in on both. You can be all in while you're working for those few hours or a couple of days or whatever it is. And then when you're having dinner, you're all in on dinner. You're all in on spending time with your child. You're all in on at least 30 minutes or an hour, go out, throw the ball around, stuff like that, where I think you can do both. I think it's possible, but I just thought that was interesting what you said.
I think it's, when you talk about mindset in that situation, right? It's hard to turn it off. You'll be at the dinner table and everything else, but man, that wheel keeps coming. I tell people, I go, look, business is like a mistress. She's going to call you all hours of the night. She's going to want you to be there with her. She's going to, I know I'm talking from a male perspective, but businesses have ruined a whole lot of families because of that constant draw. So the key, like you're saying, the way you make that happen, Vince, is you've got to understand delegation. You've got to understand automation, elimination, put those things together so that this business, your goal needs it to run itself. Again, identity, it can't be dependent on you. Like you said, owner dependent. That has to be from the get-go. Just like paying yourself first. You have to understand that's my goal, is to create this business. That's why the exit strategy is so important. We could talk about that, right? No one's going to buy a business that you have to run. You'll get nothing. Okay. Yeah. Or you'll be entrapped for years, right, condition to get out. So we have to understand that, again, the sooner we can realize that, the better, like you're saying, you can actually start separating those things. That should be the goal. It's just the how-to, right?
Well, what is the how-to? Because you've got your own system. You call it the ADE method: automate, delegate, eliminate.
Right.
Well, being a systems thinker is the only way to scale. What does all that mean?
Right. So when you're running the business, okay, everything needs to be repeatable. Okay, whatever your process, when you accept payment, right? That's repeatable. You're going to accept payment the same way every time.
I tell people everything in your life is repeatable. Like everything that you do, from waking up in the morning to getting in your car, normally it's a process that if you really step back, you could actually put it on paper and create a checklist out of it.
I could tell you my 4-hour morning routine right now. I mean, to the grossest detail. Okay. But I'm just saying, like, you're right. So we have to automate. Okay. So when we talk about automate, delegate, eliminate, automate whatever you can in the business. Okay. Now there's a lot of different degrees of automation. We get everything from AI down to, there's a timer on the machine, right? Like, we get it. We understand. We want to automate as much as we can. Delegate. This is where most people mess up. Okay. and some people call it abdicating. You just tell someone to do it and they're supposed to do it, but you haven't truly built out the lane for that position. So when you delegate it, they know exactly there's a system that they're dropped into, because we always put people into systems, not systems into people. Right. So if there's a system they can drop in, they need to know how to win on the day, the week, the month, quarter, and the year. Right. That's a system. So every day they can win. Imagine your people coming to work Monday through Friday and they know how to win every day. They're winners every single day. You think they're going anywhere?
Nope.
They're not, right? That's proper delegation. Now you're starting to get to the self-running business, right? Elimination on the surface, okay, we're going to cut costs, right? Wasteful spending. We're going to get rid of things we don't really need. We have machines sitting around we don't even use. Let's get rid of this stuff. Let's lean out a bit more. But the thing they forget to eliminate is themselves, right? As I need to eliminate me from this business. I need to go from my 40, 60, 80 hours a week down to my 10. Okay, they only need me for that. I pop in, wave my magic wand, motivate some people, make sure the course, everything's on course, and off we go. The team's got it, right? So that's really automate, delegate, eliminate.
I like that. That's the way it has to be. I mean, we've got checklists for all kinds of stuff, and it's very simple. If a mistake happens, we just go back and when I just say, well, is it in the checklist? And if it is, well, then you got to make sure that you follow the damn checklist. And if it's not, then that's okay. We can do it. But everything to me boils down to a people or a process problem for the most part. And more often than not, it's a process problem, is what I have found.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's my responsibility to make sure that the process is followed and build the people. And if I'm able to do that, then everything should be fine most of the time.
It's critical because no process, people want to be led.
Yes.
Okay. We're entrepreneurs. Well, we might think different. I'm a contrarian. I blah, blah, blah. But people want to be led. And if you can build the process, or like I said, they know how to win, it's smooth. And again, they don't want to leave. They don't want a mystery job. They don't want to come in and work and every day you're hitting them from a different direction with something out of the blue. Oh, do this. Like, well, I don't do that. Well, you got to get it done for me. I need it done. Can you do it for me? Totally throwing them off task. I mean, that's where these things just go. They're all over. They're literally sailing in a circle. They're getting nowhere.
Yeah. I think people also don't understand how much more room you allow people to grow by providing them or having a strict system and repeatable process. Because if it becomes that easy to do that thing, then it allows them more time to ultimately grow and think exponentially of other things and really ultimately lead the business in the right direction even faster.
Well, one of the things that people love, okay, there's three things. There's purpose. They want to work for purpose. They want to work for recognition, quality feedback, and quality pay. If you build the systems right, you actually build in that recognition, right? That feedback that's built into the system. When we talk about this, when we do this, when we do these awards, when we congratulate this person, private and public, and the whole thing, like that's part of a system. Like you're exactly right. When you start, that's why you have to be a systems thinker. When something flares up, a little fire comes up, oh, you go out and you fix it, some problem. Okay, now the fire's out. That's not good enough. What caused it? Because this is going to flare up again in 2 weeks.
Right.
The same problem. And everyone's head's going to come to my office, say, we got a problem. It's the same stupid problem we had 2 weeks ago because I didn't build a system to fix it. Where did this go wrong? And again, when your system's thinking every problem, pretty soon there's no problems left to solve for the most part. Okay. In the business.
So Richard, what I love about your story, it's not too much different than mine. And what I love about success that occurs later on in life, right, is all of us, it's funny, you talk to 20-something-year-olds and they feel like they're late. They feel like they're late to the party. You've got 20-something-year-old kids.
Yes. And I was 20 once, a long time ago.
I remember the moment that I think I had just graduated college and I'm looking for a job everywhere. And I felt like I was running out of time. And it's funny looking back now, it's hilarious. But what I'm excited about for where I am in my life and basically your story is what happens is when you've been punched in the face, you've been beaten to the ground, and you understand all the mistakes that you made, that it's discouraging at first because if you don't have the right mindset, if you don't have the right self-awareness, that can take you down into a deep hole where you just
Yep.
feel like you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not capable, all of these things. However, if you can get your mind out of that and understand that those thoughts are just not who you are, and that you are actually a human being, which we know human beings are capable of just some of the most extraordinary things. And then you can take the learning experiences and you apply it to a new business. What I'm learning now after rock bottom a couple of years ago is that now I understand why the average millionaire doesn't become a millionaire until like late 50s or something like that, is because you basically take all of those years of success and pain and heartache and your failures and so on and so forth, and then when you apply that now into a new business, it grows fast. And it's just sweet. And that's what I love about your story, because I'm like there now. I'll be completely honest. That's like where I am. And we're just like, we're clicking on all cylinders, man.
Yeah.
And like, this is going to be like something that like took me 5 years in my last business. I am fairly certain it's going to take me probably 6 months, if not, it may 6 months to a year.
It's so awesome. Like I tell people, I go, listen, failure is part of the process.
Yeah.
You got to do it. Matter of fact, I was so good at failing. I wrote a book about it, and it became a bestseller. So I even leveraged my failures, right? I can coach people because I have the outside eyes now to see exactly where they're at, exactly what they're doing wrong. And to me, walk in and just is waving a magic wand. Well, why are you doing that? Oh, yeah, you want to get rid of him, like someone did for me, right? Like this
Right.
guy's got to go. I've had a client recently like that. I'm like, she got to go.
Well, but I
see it.
like how you are not afraid of the failure. Like, you don't run away from it. You don't try to hide it. Like, it's just like, yeah, no, it is what it is. And that's honestly why I'm here now. And, I think that's something that, it's very important to understand that even it's just okay not to be, it took me a while to start telling people about my rock bottom. It took me about a year after. And then I started talking about it on YouTube, and people would actually come to me, comment, send me messages, be like, wow, that's amazing. I can't believe you get out of that. Da, 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 da. And, it's just interesting that how it's just funny how some of your darkest moments and some of your biggest secrets, stuff like that, when you just let them out, not only is it this freeing, but it's also relates to a lot of people, and people could understand, makes you much more human.
Yeah, I think also, Vince, like in hindsight's one of the greatest tools you can have. Okay. So you can look back and go, okay, 0809, best thing that ever happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like it truly was. Like if that didn't happen, because something had to take down the house of cards. You know what I mean? Whatever. And it was a culmination. It was kind of that perfect storm, all this, but that had to happen. I could not be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't have the children I have, who they become, my wife, all this stuff. Right? Like all because I failed epically at that time, right? And I rebuilt it. Now that whole process, now it feeds me. I make money, I build, I coach great people, and I save other businesses, and I save families, from all this kind of stuff, right? So it's like that couldn't happen if that didn't happen, And I wasn't big on talking about it either right away.
It takes, yeah, no, I got you, man. But it's amazing.
I went from that to being a personal trainer.
Right.
Okay, that's not a step up. Just saying.
I hear you. What's the overall 30,000-foot view in less than 10 steps when a business owner comes to you and they want your help? What is it that you do? What's your process?
First thing, I got to find out where they're at, in their head, in their books, what are the numbers? Where are you at? What are you keeping? We really do an analysis, of what they have, so we can create the roadmap of where we're going to go. We have to have a plan. I can coach people on the fly every single day, but it'd be like a 1 hour consultation, like call the hotline when you got a problem, but that doesn't get people anywhere. That's all tactical. That's solving simple problems. So we're going to see where they're at, understand where they're going to go, create an exit strategy, and then start to build systems, processes, see where they're at. Again, align everything, and then begin to run. Until we get everything aligned and we understand the vision of the company, where do you actually want to go with this? Now we can start to build the process, the systems, and the whole method. So that's my approach.
Is the financials the number one thing, or are there like 2 or 3 things that you look at? Like for me, I'll just give you an example so you could think of whatever it is, or you could try to help you answer the question. Is like for me, when I'm looking at the valuation of a company, it's really like 3 key drivers. I'm actually
Mhm.
going to create like a cool like pyramid model or something like that. But it's owner dependency, it's recurring revenue, and it's profit, like financials. Those three things, like that's the biggest thing. And then I come up with an entire score just based on those three things. I can talk about systems and processes, obviously important. I can talk about your marketing strategy and your sales and closing sales and so on and so forth. But to me, like the valuation of a company, the first questions that only questions that buyers ask is it owner dependent? Are they making money? And do they have any recurring revenue?
Right. Yeah, and I love that. You told me that when you're on my show, and I think those are awesome. I'm similar, except mine is like full direction because I'm not thinking about. We
Right.
talk about exit strategy, but this is we're not looking to sell now.
Right.
But I understand if you build it to sell, you'll have an amazing business even if you never sell. Like
Yeah.
you have to have that mindset. So in my mind, that's what we're doing. Okay, I'm building this thing to sell. That's the biggest, easiest way to say it. We may discuss that, we may not, but really is where are you at now, revenue? Where are you at on, real net profit? Right? Where are we at there? Like, and now if we didn't do any more revenue, how much more profit could I create in your business? That's where I start. It's okay, you did $1 million last year. Oh, congratulations. But you only kept, $45,000. Okay, so I'll tell you what, I want you to do $1 million again this year. But now we're going to keep $245,000. Okay? You okay with that? Okay, let me show you how that works. Now we have a business that's running properly. Right? Now we can begin to grow again. Right? So I'm not going to be Mr. Super Growth. We're going to go like it again, depending where they're at, but let's get the profit. Let's maximize all that hidden profit in your business. And this is not additional marketing or ad spend. This is like, hey, you're leaving all this money on the table. Let me show you all that. Let's fix that because then going forward, that real net profit number just keeps getting bigger. Okay. Your revenue's going up, but so is that big keeping profit number. That's exciting stuff. That's feeding the family.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at it now. I was actually trying to pull it up while you're here, but that's fine. I'm looking at a roofing company now. We're putting the valuation together, and half the amount of revenue from 23 to 2024 and more profit in
Yeah.
2024. He
Yeah.
finally learned how to lean everything. He did this on his own. I don't know if he hired a coach or anything like that, but his EBITDA is double the amount for 2024 than it was for 2023, even though he made almost double the gross revenue. Like we said, gross
Yeah.
revenue is
Yep.
bullshit.
Yep. That's right. So that's like a big takeaway. You
Yep.
have to grab just that revenue number. You look at it as
It's
part
just
of the
so pretty
P&L.
though. It's
I
so
know, but
pretty.
it's part of the P&L. We get it, but then there's everything else underneath it. The other two,
Yeah.
three things underneath it you can control that we really want to work on and keep that profit. And you know what? You know what's really cool, Vince? When people do that, and all of a sudden they went from 45,000 to 245,000, and they're looking at this pile of cash, and they're kind of astounded. And then you gotta grab and go, hold on now. You don't just go spend this.
Right. Put it away somewhere.
Well, we're going to do some with it. Now it's time to
Yeah.
leverage. Okay. We're going to leverage and get your family secure and all that kind of stuff, so, but it's a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
and then they start getting quality of life. Now they're spending even more time with the family. They can do those trips. They can go away from the business with that extra money they've got or whatever, right? They can start to like just quality of life, not standard of living.
Tell me, what's the name of your book, Richard, and where can people find you? Where can people purchase the book, and how can you and I are going to start working together. Like I'm telling you right now, it's
Love it.
definitely going to start happening. I want to figure that out. But yeah, so what's the name of your book? Where can people find it, and how can people find you?
Escape the Owner Prison. Look for that. Find it on Amazon, of course, and sale in the book market. That's the best place to go. SharpenTheSpearCoaching.com is my website. Go there. Tons of stuff on there, from videos to info to all kinds of cool stuff. But Vince, since this was awesome, and not every podcast is, just saying, but since this was awesome, not yours, others, I've been on a lot, right? Let's do this. Let's give the listeners a gift. Go to SharpenTheSpearCoaching.com. Send me a 1-sentence email. Say, hey, I saw you on Vince's podcast. I'd love a copy of the audio version of Escape the Owner Prison, and I'll give it to you for free. I'll send it right to you. Give you the link.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Cool. Richard, as always, thank you so much for your time. It's always a great conversation with you. We need to have more of these.
I loved it. Loved it. Do it anytime you want.
All right, Richard. Thanks for coming on, man.